All right, welcome back, and thank you so much for staying with Morning Live. And now, the Independent Electoral Commission, IEC, has urged all South Africa's eligible voters to visit their voting stations. That's over the weekend of the 10th and the 11th of March 2018. This, of course, is part of a national campaign to update the voters' roll in preparation for the 2019 elections. The campaign also implements the 2016 Constitutional Court ruling in which the IEC was ordered to update the voters' roll with all available voters' addresses by June 2018. But to give us more information on this, we're joined now in studio by Sy Mamabolo. He is the IEC's CEO. Good morning to you, Sy Mamabolo. Thank you so much for coming through.
Thank you very much.
And one would think it's too early for the preparations for 2019 because the elections will only be when? Between May and August next year?
Indeed. The elections are expected between May and August 2019. However, preparing for an election, it's a 24-month endeavor. So as we speak, we are in the underbelly of those preparations, and the registration weekend that we announced yesterday is part of that preparation.
Yeah, and just before we look at the Constitutional Court ruling of 2016, in the first place, why did the IEC not have addresses of voters?
Well, it's a historical matter in a sense that when the voters' roll was first conceptualized, the requirement was registration inside of a voting district. And for as long as you were able to locate the person in the voting district, there was no necessity for an address. In 2003, December thereof, a legal requirement came into our statute book wherein voters needed to provide addresses where available. So it is that historical context which have resulted in a situation where we were since 2003. However, significant progress has been made since the Concord decision last year in June. At that time, in June last year, we had 34% of voters with addresses on the roll, with complete addresses. That has since improved to 19 million people out of the 25 million who have complete addresses on the voters' roll.
All right, so you're getting there. That's why you're calling on them to actually go verify their addresses.
Exactly. So 75% of voters on the voters' roll, we have addresses for them. So good progress. However, there's a further 2.8 million people for whom we do not have an address, and that remains our major concern at the moment, which is why we are creating this opportunity, a registration weekend, where people who don't have addresses need to come, supply same to the IEC. Those that have addresses, they also need to come to confirm the correctness of their addresses. But thirdly, and perhaps importantly, for young persons who have turned 16, to also come and register because the future belongs to young persons.
Yeah, and what happens to voters who stay in informal settlements who do not have addresses? What happens in such cases?
It is a perennial problem because those areas are not formalized, but the Constitutional Court said that we need to take from those people a description of where they live, even if it's not a conventional address.
So they might be within that 2.8 million that's still
they might still be within the 2.8 million. So we take what the court referred to as sufficient particulars from them to be able to place them in the correct voting district.
All right, so we're looking at 22,612 voting stations that will be opened on the weekend of the 10th and the 11th of March.
That is correct. Every single voting station in the country will open for business. To take addresses, to confirm addresses, as well as to enlist new voters.
Yeah, I remember towards the end of last year, the IEC had actually launched an online facility. Is it still operational?
The online is still operational. It's a very intuitive tool that we came up with, and for those who like the convenience of their homes or their offices, they can go create a user profile, will authenticate the user profile, and you can supply your address thereon, or change details if you've moved subsequent to your last interaction with us.
All right. We have to leave it at that. Sy Mamabolo, thank you so much for coming through.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much to Sy Mamabolo. He is the IEC CEO, talking to us about that registration week taking place on the 10th and the 11th of March 2018. So do make sure that you go out in your large numbers to go verify your addresses. All right. It's 24 minutes after 8 o'clock here on Morning Live. It's time for your sports news.